Hey there. Are you tired of waiting for the next episode of It's Probably Not Aliens? Well, we've got some good news for you. On Nebula, our streaming service, you can get access to all our episodes a week early. That's right, you'll never have to wait again to hear Scott and I debunk the latest ancient astronaut theory or get a movie fact wrong. But that's not all. Nebula is home to dozens of content creators we know you like, so you can find all your favorites in one place. Plus, we post content on there that you won't find anywhere else. And the best part? By signing up for Nebula at nebula.tv/probablyNotAliens, you're directly supporting the show and both of us. So don't wait any longer. Join Nebula today and listen to the next episode right after this one.
Hi everyone, Scott here. Sorry we've been gone for like most of this year. That was not intended. We recorded this episode back in like May or April, I think, the one that you're about to hear. And at the end of this episode, we were going to tell you that we were taking a small break to restructure the show. But then I forgot to put this episode up for so long. We're still going to give you some more details at the end of this episode about where we have been. But just up front, I wanted to say thank you all so much for your patience. We're not ending the show. We didn't intend to end the show. We are still recording episodes. Basically, what is happening is we are now going to do seasons of this show. Seasons that are all centered around one specific topic. And then we'll close out that season, do some corrections and some Q&A, and then we will start the next season centered around a different topic, a bunch of episodes in there. And like I said, we already recorded the first, season of this format. It's 12 episodes all about ancient technology. And it goes in a million different directions, all the stuff that you would expect from us. It covers religion and culture and ancient artifacts. They're the same types of episodes you know and love. And the reason we're formatting it this way going forward is because we've mentioned it a few times, but this show doesn't make really any money. It makes, like a dozen or so dollars every month from the people who support us on Nebula. But Tristan and I have jobs outside of this, jobs that we were not putting a lot of time and attention to because the podcast took up a lot of our time. And so we both found ourselves this year in sort of a independent, dire financial situations. And we had to take a step back and say, how can we keep making this podcast in a way that is sustainable for us while also being able to do our jobs that do pay us money? And this concept of doing like a season format really worked out, we thought, the best for us. So we could batch record, batch edit, and not really have to make an episode week to week, because that was causing some burnout. It was very unsustainable for us. However, if you did want to support this show more directly than, just listening and telling your friends about it, we resisted doing this for a while, but seeing how much the show means to a lot of you, especially as we haven't uploaded an episode in many months, we figured it was only time to actually finally launch a Probs Not Aliens Patreon. So if you go to patreon.com/probsnotaliens, it's not fully set up yet, but Tristan has put in the work to make it at least available for people to support us. A couple people found it before we even made an announcement about it, which was very fun. Something we would really like to do is just to be able to afford an editor and pay them fairly, because that is the main thing that slows down the production process for us, because I do the editing and I'm really bad at it when I'm behind on like making YouTube videos, the stuff that pays my bills. And that creates scenarios like this where we seemingly disappear off the face of the earth. So yeah, that's patreon.com/probsnotaliens if you want to support us there. And I just want to say again, I'm so sorry for not posting this episode that you're about to hear, because it was supposed to explain that we were going on a break before we actually went on a break. And that is 100% my fault. Anyway, like I keep saying, we talk more about this at the end of this episode, so I won't delay it any longer. Here is a regular, normal episode. It's not tied to the season that we're going to do in the future. By the way, that season will premiere in October. Tristan and I thought that would be a really good idea, really fun idea to sort of celebrate the 3-year anniversary of this show by sort of relaunching it in October of this year. So you just have to wait a couple more weeks, but until then, here is just a normal episode with a very great guest. Enjoy!
Quince, just so you know, we are coming off of, because we're kind of slowly going through the show Ancient Aliens.
Oh, right. Yes.
And I made the dubious decision that instead of doing like, this episode is going to be about this episode of Ancient Aliens, we're going like subject by subject rather than like episode by episode, which means that we've been doing this show for 121. This is our 121st episode, and we are in like maybe like 7th episode of the show.
They cover a lot really quick back to back.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we are in a situation where we're covering an episode called Aliens in the Third Reich. So we have been basically in just Nazi hell for like 3 months.
Yeah, it is. The entirety of this year has just been lots of World War II and Nazis and stuff. So we're coming down from that today.
Yeah, we're taking a break.
Very happy to be here to give you a refreshing trip south of the border to whatever where is Teotihuacán?
It is in Mexico. It's about 30 miles out of Mexico City. It's double south of the border for me as a
you're in
Canadian.
Canada.
That's right.
Okay.
But I get it. Yeah, but I guess we should probably first establish who's this British person that's also speaking on the show.
Yes.
I want to introduce, because I'm really excited. This is one of my secret motivations for this show is just to grab people that I've been really liking their stuff and watching it, and then being like, hey, I want to pick your brain. So how about you come on a podcast? We talk about stuff. It's worked out well so far. So I really want to introduce Quinton Smith, who I feel like is like on the verge of needing no introduction. Very close.
Oh, wow.
If in very specific circles, you need no introduction.
Yeah, this is what I like to tell my family, is that when I go to a board game convention, I'm basically Brad Pitt. Outside of that, still nobody knows who I am.
Yeah, exactly. So Quinton Smith was a 10-year video game journalist, writing for a bunch of different places. But I think the last one was Rock, Paper, Shotgun, which is a pretty big one, where you're basically responsible, or one of the major people responsible for bringing Pathologic to the West.
Correct. And if you've played that disturbing art house Russian video game, you'll know that it's not necessarily a good thing, but I think it is.
I think you're the one who pointed out that sometimes good games aren't fun, which I think was a very interesting way to...
Single-handedly making games less fun. That's my claim to fame.
Mm-hmm. And then you had, you're still involved, but like you then got really big with, did another project, which is Shut Up and Sit Down, which is like probably like the biggest board game review YouTube channel that exists. It's part of like a big team of people. And again, is the reason why, one, it's the YouTube channel that is the most responsible for me losing the most amount of money. As I say, because I just lost a bunch of money to Root over the last week.
Root's fun though. Root's good. It's okay to spend money on little wooden animals.
See, but here's the thing. Off mic, Tristan and I have talked a lot about how he does not like spending money. It takes a lot for him to spend any amount of money. So me hearing this is like, what have you done? What power do you wield?
I inherited a gene from my father where I feel physical pain when I spend money.
That is not a terrible gene to have, but you know what, Scott? It's the power of a British accent. If you're British and you get passionate about something, then Americans simply have to. I think it's some kind of like remnant of the colonial like mindset. That you hear a British person having fun and you're like, no, I will have that fun. That
it's
will not
mine
be
now.
The oppressor cannot keep this fun to themselves.
And Canada, we've only been independent for like 150 some years, so like we still have it strong.
You do, yeah.
And also, Shut Up and Sit Down is the only YouTube channel that has their logo in my dining room, because the pear seal of approval that you guys use is on the side of my copy of Gloomhaven, which sits on my shelf like a giant cinder block, intimidating me into at some point poking all the pieces out of the cardboard and actually buying a tackle box so I can actually run the thing. And then, but more recently, your bigger projects have been People Make Games, which is a Nebula show that we are all in the same family with, where you run it with Chris Bratt.
That's right. Yeah.
The good Chris, not
Chris Pratt. No. That's correct. And then Annie Sayers is the third member of our team. She does the art and makes our little documentaries look nice.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, that's so cool. On that, you've done like an investigative, you took Roblox to task. You went to, I think the most recent thing is you did a big profile on Jubentia, a whole genre of role-playing game in China that is like complete, like just just now getting some traction in the West.
It's an unfathomably popular hobby in China. It turns out China, it takes role-playing more seriously than America does with all of its Dungeons & Dragons. Who knew?
And the most fun is taking two British lads and dropping them in a post-apocalyptic LARP.
That was great. Yeah, the dream for any journalist, I think, is, and that I finally, like, I'm very, very privileged to have got there at the ripe old age of 37. But People Make Games is like the best job I've ever had because I just get interested in stuff and I go, can I learn about this for a month and then make a little documentary? And our patrons say, yeah, I guess. You know, they just kind of trust me to find interesting stuff.
And it's a really great, like for the Jubentia video, you went to Taiwan to do research. Like it seems like it's going really well.
Singapore, but
Singapore,
yes,
sorry,
similar country with a large Chinese population. Well, that's you know what? Let's not get into political demographic subjects in Southeast Asia.
Yeah, and then the most recent though, your big project is Quinn's Quest, which it's a show about reviewing tabletop role-playing games specifically that does a couple things. One, specifically is about drawing attention to games that are not the Dragon game, and two, hit the industry like a nuclear bomb because every single Quinn's Quest video that's come out, I see in every single corner of TTRPG internet. Maybe it's just because those circles I'm in, but
that's lovely to know. That's really cool because Quinn's Quest is also the only solo YouTube project I've had.
Yeah, where you do like a 90s sort of retro vibe thing. It's really great.
Yeah, you on this podcast, you know all about Ancient Aliens. A similar legendary bit of American programming is Jonathan Frakes' is it Beyond Belief, Facts or Fiction? Or
yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
yes. It's really Quinn's Quest is just me doing my best Jonathan Frakes impression. Love that man so much. Big fan of that. And tabletop role playing games are just so good right now, and play D. So Quinn's Quest is my chance to like show off some of the amazing games people aren't playing because they're really good.
Yeah.
As a person who wants all my tabletop games to just be Fate, I really appreciate.
You're one of those. I mean, sure. Look, we can temporarily be allies in getting people to stop playing.
I as somebody who just loves the non-Dragon games, is all in general. We did a Monster of the Week one shot on this podcast.
Yeah, we did. That was fun. Speaking of, this is a podcast, by the way.
This is a podcast
called It's Probably Not Aliens, where we debunk ancient astronaut theory, Ancient Aliens, the TV show. We've been on a big run of World War II stuff, and we're going to take a small break today because we need it. We need a break of something a little different. My name is Scott Nicewander. I don't know anything. I come into this fresh-faced, young, hip, Gen Z, not really, but I'm here to learn about whatever Tristan has prepared for us today.
Yeah, my name is Tristan Johnson, and I barely pass my sanity check every week to come back with what I have found from the abyss to show you this week in nonsense. And this is I pitched Quinn a handful of different topics, and you definitely liked this one. So let's delve right into the claim.
Yeah, what are we talking about?
Millions
today?
of people around the world believe.
Wait, millions? Already I'm upset. This is not
it gets here. We like to play a little stinger for the claim, but this is how every episode of Ancient Aliens starts is millions of people around the world believe, and then they get into the wildest stuff. So as a proper introduction,
yeah, we've entered that phase of the podcast where we've got the sound machine.
Uh-huh.
Oh wow!
So millions of people around the world believe that that Teotihuacán, the ancient pyramid structure in central Mexico, might be a computer.
What?
Sorry, we're early in the phase of when we add the sound machine to the podcast. So we're still in like the sort of like the hype
right
cycle
now.
bit.
Yeah.
You two can't comprehend how excited I am to be on like a shock jock start. Like, you know, the trope in when you're on radio shows is that
we just get toilet flushing or something.
I have been podcasting for 12 years, and I have never once had access to a live soundboard. The sound effects are always put in post. This rips. I wish I had access to it.
Hell yeah.
I'm going to try not to get too excited. This is awesome.
Excellent. Now you have permission, Scott. There's strange amounts of mica in the stone, or mica stone found all around Teotihuacán, a conductive material used in computers.
Oh.
The structure of the pyramids and roads looks kind of like a circuit board.
Okay.
And that's the claim.
So that's it. That's the entirety of it.
That's the claim.
Right.
As you can imagine, there are because it's me, way darker implications to get into. But that is it's been a while since we have gone back to we build up an entire thing and then we get to thing definitely looks like a thing.
Thing looks like a thing. That's a classic on this show.
I don't want to disrupt the pattern that you folks have built up for more than 100 episodes, but can I just raise my hand and be like, that can't be it? These folks have to, the conspiracy has to. Scott is raising his hands up. That's it.
That's all it is.
I'm gonna put in the chat here an image, because I present to you, as part of their claim for this, one of the funniest graphics in Ancient Aliens. So one of the one that we had before was that they showed this one to show how this ancient Turkish map had a map of the Americas way before they should have had it, and had Antarctica. And then they try to superimpose the two maps on each other to show how accurate it was. But if you looked at this fade, it showed that it was very obviously wrong about a lot of things.
Yes.
This is the strength. The link I'm going to put in the chat here.
Oh, I see.
This is what they use to make the claim.
Oh.
And just
no,
it's beautiful.
Okay, hang on. I've got questions about this. What we are looking at is a image divided in two. The top half shows a microchip, and the bottom half shows an artist's rendition of Teotihuacan that looks like a microchip, so drawn to look like a microchip. I mean, this isn't a satellite image. This is just a picture.
Yeah. And also, that microchip also looks like it was maybe designed by an artist to maybe look like the shape of Teotihuacan. I have no idea if it's an actual microprocessor or anything.
If this little circuit board or whatever is actually doing anything, if someone could take a look at it and be like, oh, this is what this does, or if it's just I don't know, design a microchip to look like this artist's rendition of Teotihuacan.
Okay, look, something that you two will learn about me on this podcast is that I am cursed with devil's advocacy. I have been my whole life.
This is good. This is good.
There's nothing I can't help myself from flinging myself into the side of an argument that people are making fun of. And I know what the answer to this is going to be. You two are just going to say no. But what this image looks like to me is that people are suggesting that the architecture of a microchip or of a circuit board is designed to be as efficient as possible, right? That's, that we've put a lot of money and time into figuring out how best to move data around. I don't actually know how circuit boards work. But is this not saying that hey, the city of Teotihuacan's architecture is designed, in a similarly efficient way that is ahead of its time? Or are they saying quite literally that this is a data crunching cube?
I love where your head is at.
Thanks, Scott.
I love the idea, because it would be just very simple and almost agreeable to say in the same way that these two things are designed to be efficient, and that's cool, and we should celebrate the fact that this ancient place was designed to be very efficient, much like modern technology. That's not what they're saying.
Oh no.
This is the part. This is the most interesting discovery we've had doing this podcast. Is sometimes the argument is this bad? It's just because what they'll do is that this will take up a total of 5 seconds of airtime before they move on to the next thing.
Yes.
Okay. So they'll just toss things at you in rapid succession.
And we have to devote an entire episode to it. So
okay, Tristan, you've done the research though for this podcast, right?
Yes.
So can I use you as imagine that we're in a bar and you've just told me that dude, Teotihuacan was. Can you be can I ask questions to you as the standard conspiracy theory?
Sure. Yeah, yes. I can try to do that. Yeah.
Great. What are you talking about? What do you mean?
So that the design of Teotihuacan, because of its design that from a satellite photo looks like a microchip, that shows to me, and also that there's a tons of mica stone used inside, which is mica, the sort of one of the things involved with making microchips. To me, like that evidence shows enough that this was designed to do some sort of computational stuff, because why else would you put a stone like that in these random places, and that there's like underground things? And
I hate that you put that question back on me there at the end. That physically made me like recoil.
That's
like,
how they do it, is they never really, on this show, they never really make definitive claims of like, this is what happens. What they do is they go, we're just asking questions, and we're asking you the question now.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Yeah,
I hate it.
It's and I've been doing this for years. Almost 3. The other part too is that they found deposits of liquid mercury at the site, which is also a thing that's used in computers and electronics.
Okay, but liquid mercury's been discovered in Chinese tombs. Like I know this. There was a village that got really sick in modern day China, and so they went into an old like ancient tomb, and what they discovered was that the tomb had loads of like little grooves in the floor that were empty, but must have contained liquid mercury at some point, creating a super cool visual effect. But that liquid mercury had drained out into the topsoil and got a bunch of mod people sick. So I know that liquid mercury was just used for vibes in ancient times, and rightly so, because if you don't know it's sick, liquid mercury, if you don't know it makes you sick, liquid mercury is awesome.
It looks really cool. It looks like T1000. And
you
know what? To me, that just says, I can't wait till we have to do the ancient Chinese tomb as a computer episode.
I was going to say, I'm like, you saying all this, Quids, I'm just like, oh, there's definitely going to be an episode of Ancient Aliens about how that tomb is a computer now.
Okay, so is the idea that they hang on, like this is so dumb. I can't.
Yes.
Okay, but are you two aware?
So quick, yeah.
You've broken my spirit within 10 minutes of us starting. Are you two? Okay, I'm going to continue to persevere to make this conspiracy theory make sense. Are you two aware of the sci-fi fantasy novelist Adrian Tchaikovsky? I think he won the Nebula Award either a ago or. Is this ringing any bells?
Sounds familiar.
Yes, Tchaikovsky. I'm trying to remember.
The big book was Children of Time. That's anyway. Adrian Tchaikovsky's thing is as an author, he's always imagining like sentience as imagined not through humans but through animals. And Children of Time, the novel that I think it was the Arthur C. Clarke Award maybe, envisions what does society look like if humans don't evolve but it's spiders. And the spiders end up developing computing that uses basically ants, which the spiders have had this like. I don't want to get too much into it. The point is that we use electricity to power computers. But if you want to create a difference engine, like you don't, which is just basically a sort of incredibly fancy abacus, you don't necessarily need to use electricity to do it. Like you could use organic matter. So I'm thinking about Teotihuacán and thinking like, could you design a city where the flow of people would create, like the flow of people from A to B would end up calculating something? I feel like I have already put more thought into this than Tristan has given me initially.
That you probably put more thought into it than the people who are proponents of this claim is the thing.
Yeah, like, okay, but how would that work? Like, I honestly don't know enough about system architecture to imagine how you would build a computer with human beings. But those human beings would have to have not free will, or the day-night, like the life cycle of the city would have to result in those people naturally being shuttled around based on people asking questions of the population. I'm assuming that the population of Teotihuacán are the ones and zeros in this. I guess. In this computer.
You'd basically need lemmings or something like that, like the game from the 90s.
Yeah, or you'd need a way to control where people go based on, like, isn't this what a logic gate is? I really wish I knew more about computers.
I wish I did too. So, but the other thing too, though, and this is the other reason why they were able to latch onto this, is that Teotihuacán has a lot of mystery attached to it, because we don't actually know a whole lot about the people who built it and the sort of stuff about it. We know a lot more because of its impact on other Mesoamerican cultures, but we don't know a whole lot about them themselves.
What impact did they have on other nearby cultures?
Tons. Like the whole thing is that like their concept of like if there's some evidence that their religious work, their ideas of like city structure, their ideas of construction methods were basically spread all the way across Mexico, all the way down to like the Yucatan with the Maya, and that a lot of what we understand as like the style of Mesoamerican construction and city design, and even some religious practices, have their roots in Teotihuacán, because it was just so big and powerful, because mostly because it has a huge amount of obsidian deposits nearby.
Of computers.
Yeah, of computers. it was the Silicon Valley of its time.
Wait, so the obsidian did they trade it? Was it valuable, or did it have a practical use?
Obsidian was a material that Mesoamericans used in huge numbers because it was they used it for basically anything that needed to cut. So arrowheads, knives, anything like that was made with obsidian.
Wow, South America simply rips, and I really feel so ignorant of my knowledge about it because in Europe we don't study it at all. We're too busy studying European countries and the fact they love to kill each other. Was Teotihuacan also one of like the South American cultures that vanished, or not vanished, but was kind of wiped out? There was like a mass exodus away from cities, right?
The Maya had that in the 900s. The story of Teotihuacan is we know less about what caused it to fall, really. Again, like there's a lot of mysteries surrounding this site. The main thing though is that Mexico and like the sort of like Mexico specifically, but a lot of places in the Central and South America like that, they are subject to the El Nino effect, which means that that region can have and without much like order or structure to it, can go through periods of drought and such for long periods of time, and can cause a lot of upheaval. It's one of the reasons why they think that this region specifically of Mexico practiced so much human sacrifice, is that it was like part of like a sort of a ritualistic practice that was brought up over the fact that nature was just like a lot less predictable and capricious than in a lot of other places.
Right, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. The people who push this, the biggest article I could find on this Teotihuacan being a computer is a website called, and very much if you are a person who checks your sources, when you see a URL like this, question mark should come up. Ancient Code, a 2012 website that covers a bunch of different stuff, but is known for talking a lot about, media bias / fact check, another like sort of media rating website, show that it promotes content that is, and very, very generously, quote, not widely accepted or validated by the mainstream scientific community.
Okay, all right. I mean, that's what we always say on this show, is Ancient Aliens always says mainstream archaeologists believe this, but others still think it goes deeper.
Cool archaeologists.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The cool ones.
The self-described Indiana Jones people.
What do you think okay, so like, can we just follow this through to its conclusion? If Teotihuacan was a computer.
Yeah. Okay.
What is a computer? A computer is able to calculate stuff.
Yeah.
What are they calculating that can't be done on an abacus? Because I'm sure you two are aware that like people, you see this a lot in India, like people who are as good today with an abacus as people were before the invention of computing are monsters to look like. They're able to do ludicrously advanced calculations. What would you use a city-sized?
Listen, the point of what it was for or why they would have done it is secondary to the claim that this shows that ancient people had advanced technology and therefore got inspiration from extraterrestrials. That is
it? Does it? Oh wow! And so that's why it appears in Ancient Aliens, is because,
of course,
because it's signed that this is less hateful than the idea that it is equally hateful. Because of course the thing with like the theory that aliens taught the Egyptians to build the pyramids is like kind of a massive slight on the Egyptian people who figured it out themselves. I thought that when I came on this podcast, I thought the idea was that the people of Teotihuacan were so smart they were able to build a computer. You two are telling me, no. The fact that they had a computer is because aliens gave it to you.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
It always goes back to that. Yeah.
I hate everything about this.
That's a very correct response to have. Yeah.
Yeah. You're just like, I love that we're going through, first of all, Quinn's having his natural like investigative journalism cap on to like get to the bottom of the story.
You
just keep digging and find like, this story has no bottom. No,
it's not that the story has no bottom. It's that I'm trying to dig like laid concrete, and it's like there's nothing under the incredibly dim surface of this. What annoys me is that one of the many things that annoys me about this is that like in my day job, I really like finding weird communities. Like when I'm doing documentaries, people make games, whether it's like people, having like weird sex parties in VR chat, or like, I don't know, any like going to see people who LARP the end of the world in California. Like if anything is weird, generally, if I dig into it, it starts to make more and more and more sense because humans are the same all over. This doesn't feel like, like humans this doesn't feel like a humans story. This feels like a guy thought this looked like like a circuit board and then shared this theory.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the main bit.
What do we do about this? How do we stop this from happening? Oh, I guess you two have
that's
recorded
what this podcast is trying to.
I was going to say,
yeah. So to kind of go through like a little bit of to try and quote debunk this claim, which is like an idea a person had, basically, to kind of figure out, like, one, a lot of like the idea of the purpose and function of Teotihuacán is well known because there's, we've done enough archaeology there to know that it was a religious center and it was a trade city, because we found stuff from Teotihuacán across the continent. And we also have found remnants of stuff from all over the place here, and that it is sitting on top of obsidian deposits. Obsidian, basically, for anyone who doesn't know, it's volcanic glass. You can use it to get to hell if you want to, but it has other purposes besides going to hell, which is that you can chip it to make...
It's so sharp.
Yeah, you can make extremely sharp blades out of it, to the point where obsidian blades today are still used for like very delicate surgeries, like with glass, because you can get like monomolecular sharp. Like it is the material you can get like the absolute sharpest, to the point where people who work with obsidian and cut themselves will sometimes find that the cut is so clean because it's so sharp that it heals almost as fast as they cut. Like they'll cut themselves and it'll bleed for like a second and then it will heal because the cut is just that clean.
Wow,
it's insane.
Do we have an answer as to how the mica, this stone that's used in electronics, appears in Teotihuacán? Is it just built on a mica deposit? Is it?
Okay. Well, mica has some properties besides being good in computers that we might want to consider, for the fact that it is really good at insulating. It's really good at insulating heat.
There you go.
And it's really good at maintaining, like, it's a really good way of like holding water. And if you live in a place like Teotihuacán, which, spoiler, I have been to, it's in a place that is described by biomes as semi-arid. So it is a dry, hot place. Kind of like, it's sort of like you're getting kind of close to like the deserty part of northern Mexico, but not quite.
Mm-hmm.
Those kinds of places get very, I mean, you were in the desert for that thing recently. You know that gets fairly hot in the day and gets fairly cold at night. And
yes, it's the most annoying biome of all.
Yeah, and you can imagine that insulation might be a thing that is useful.
Yes, sounds like it.
So this is at least partially as well convergent evolution, right? It's like, just because two things look similar, like us as humans are like pattern recognition engines.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a human seeing a circuit board in Teotihuacan and then assuming they're the same thing, or like assuming they are related somehow, as opposed to the fact that straight lines and squares are thing. It is
Jesus's face on toast. It is a face in the clouds. It's the same.
Yes.
Yeah. On the Mercury, as you pointed out, it's very often used in symbolic things because it looks rad as hell. And what happened was that Mercury was found in large quantities below one of the pyramids, and in chambers that suggest that it is a representation of lakes and rivers. And we've talked about on this podcast when we talked about King Pakal, who was a Mayan. This is the Mayan king who they interpreted his sarcophagus lid as him operating a rocket ship.
Blasting off into space.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah. But what it is that they have like the concept in Mesoamerica of the underworld, kind of like with like the idea of the river Styx, has a sort of river and lake focus to it. Like they do believe like that there is, like, if you follow the rivers, you will find a cave that is the way to the underworld. And so symbolic representations of water, like Mercury, are a pretty good one that they use for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that sort of plays into, again, and even the fact that Mercury is toxic, and it doesn't really have much of a practical utility if you don't understand that it's used for mining, basically. That's like its main utility.
Well, and I think we discussed earlier, it's used for vibes sometimes.
It's used for vibe. The vibes are great.
Yeah.
There's some really clever old thermostats that use it in a cool way, because you'd like turn a thing and then like you turn a coil, and that would move the mercury out or move the mercury into place so that it connects a circuit so that the heater would turn on. And then as it heats up, the coil will get bigger and it'll turn the thing back and then the mercury will move out of place and cut off the connection and cause the heating to turn off. But
clever.
So cool.
yeah, but mercury, the only other use it really had is like it's really good at removing minerals from ore. Like it's good for like purifying silver and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But like they didn't know this at this time. Because they didn't have like the silver deposits were down in Bolivia, not here. So it was just known for being toxic and looking cool, which they then used for
not unlike myself.
So many people have described it this way. And so the only reason that you would think, why is somebody saying that it's a computer? And the main reasons are the things that as internet content creators, you would understand, which is one, sensationalism and publicity gets you attention. Attention turns into money.
Mm-hmm.
And also it might be just another piece in a what's called argument ad verbositium, it's sort of one of the logical fallacies that's the most common, which is that an argument looks more sound if it just has more about it. I think the other common term is the gish gallop.
Mm-hmm. This is
the gish gallop refers to just a galloping quantity of gish that throws you off your game.
Like it's harder to debunk ancient aliens when you just have the most. They don't have to be good arguments or arguments at all. They just could just be a lot.
It's exactly what the issue that we face doing this show is. That's why we had like 3 months talking about Nazis, because they had one episode about Nazis and they had so much in it that we had to spend so much time debunking it and looking into stuff. Yeah.
You two are doing the Lord's work.
It's mostly Tristan, I will say.
Well, Scott is here for emotional support.
That's right.
Can I also point out that as far as this is less of a solid argument that Tristan was making, but civic infrastructure is like a nightmarishly difficult and expensive thing to plan and create. The idea of that you could do a piece of sleight of hand of designing a city that works as a city with all the like sanitation and trading and living and people getting to work and transportation, like the idea that you could build that and it would function, and also a computer your city functions as a computer is like beyond farcical. Am I right?
It would definitely require some next level stuff. That sounds like the kind of thing that somebody would have made work in like City Skylines or something.
Yeah, yes, but then it would get shared on Reddit because it's such an amazingly difficult thing to do.
Yeah, it's like that guy who made that like dystopian nightmare in SimCity or whatever.
SimCity, yeah.
Which is like, or the person who made the most dystopian Civilization 2 setting or whatever.
Yeah, something I wanted to touch on earlier, Quinns, when you're talking about how if Teotihuacán was a computer, are the people the zeros and ones that are computing things. That is such an interesting thought that I guarantee you no one who pushes this theory because we've done this show enough to know. I would assume that if someone were to say this city is a computer and you'd be like, well, what is it computing? How is it computing? People would I guarantee you people take it literally and they think it's actually an electrically powered computer. And it's being powered by stuff that we've talked about on the show before, like the world grid theory and free energy and
like the ley lines and stuff.
Ley lines and things like that. The idea of people being the bits of code going back and forth is way more interesting of a concept to me than like hidden grids of energy around the world that people build structures onto to tap into world energy, free energy, and things like that.
Yeah. Gotcha. I think the reason this is really just getting me down and like I'm coming away from this podcast appearance quite dispirited is in order to pick apart, to prove this is nonsense. I have given it, because I tried to devil's advocate it, right? I assumed the people behind it were thinking, more fool me. But I gave it, I built up their theory for them. I was like, okay, so the humans are zeros and ones. What would they have to calculate? That is not, I realize that's not the level of discourse that we're at.
Nope.
Unfortunately.
No. But I will tell you a little bit about what Teotihuacán actually was. Because one of the things you try to do on the show, once we kind of deal with the theory, is here's the actual stuff that they're trying to cover up. And to give you my bona fides, because I am a Mesoamerican fanboy, there was another universe where I was pursuing studying a Mesoamericanist like archaeology degree that I sort of got stopped because of some like, academic hiccups. But I did spend a bunch of time studying Mesoamerican stuff. And for Reading Week, which is like the Canadian version of spring break, I did go to Mexico City for like 10 days. And I went to Teotihuacan and I tried to look for Facebook photos to find like a good one that showed that proof that I went to the place. And there's only one photo of me there that has me in it. And I want to show it to you because it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Wow.
Wait, is it intentionally blurry?
No, that is just some. It's from 2011, and some guy just took it of me. And
this could be like an illustration that you've just linked us to. We should do an entire. I feel like we could do an episode debunking this photo.
Yeah.
Proving that it's not real. That looks. You are at the top of a ziggurat type construction. Am I right?
Yeah. So the way that it works is because of tourists destroying things. They had like the big pyramid was shut down for the day, and then the smaller one you could still go up and take a look around. So that's a picture of me at the top of the Temple of the Moon, and there's like two really big pyramids there. There's the Temple of the Moon and the Temple of the Sun, which you might recognize on on our previous picture. Is the sort of the Temple of the Sun is the one on the far left side, and then the Temple of the Moon is the one that's sort of 90 degrees or perpendicular to it. So that's me on top of the one that is that's sticking out from the top there.
But even in this photo, the idea that you would want to think about the city of Teotihuacan and come up with the idea that it's a computer is so aggravating, because like the size of the pyramids you are stood next to is the only thing that we should be focusing on. Like, can you imagine how much energy and how much effort went into designing and building
Absolutely.
these things? What drove humans to do that? Like, as opposed to ignoring that to be like, what if these were? It's like, no, they're not though. Let's talk. Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
I'm getting wound up.
No, you're good.
It's wild. And like the kind of thing you said about city design is actually like a really good point, because Mesoamerica had like phenomenally great city design. Like, for example, Teotihuacan, it was the largest pre-Aztec city in Mexico, which kind of it dates back to like 400 BCE. But like the capital of the Aztec Empire, Tenochtitlan, which was inspired by Teotihuacan because they thought that like giants or gods had built it in like the ancient past.
Really?
Yeah. At the time when Cortez discovered it, like the asteroid discovered the dinosaurs. But when Cortez arrived in Tenochtitlan, the capital, which is where Mexico City is today, it had a population larger than Paris or London at the time, and it was like made on an artificial island in a lake.
Yeah, that city is technically had the first aquarium we know of in history, right? Or the first public aquarium, because did they? That's something I think it was that city that the governors would release rare fish into the canals of the city.
I can't confirm that, but that does sound like the kinds of like feats. I think that you once reviewed a board game on what's it called, on Shut Up and Sit Down, that was about like city organizing in Tenochtitlan. I think they're actually
well actually there is a board game called Teotihuacan, which is about design, which is in fact about how hard it is to pyramid and trying to get it envisions that as players are working together to construct this pyramid, the game ends when you have finished the pyramid, but the score you have is based on how many bricks you contributed to the pyramid and in what place.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, Teotihuacan probably lasted for about 300 years at its peak. It grew because of the refugees. The refugees arrived, and it kind of grew to the largest city in the region. Had its peak around the 6th century, so in like the 500s, and had approximately 125 to 200,000 inhabitants. And if you're thinking about that, like think about Europe in the 500s, which is like pretty dark. Well, the term Dark Ages is not a term to use, but it was a time where there were not many cities that had 200,000 people in them.
Sure, yeah.
And was also a center for religion. It was a center for trade, as I mentioned, and was known for having amazing urban planning, having a major thoroughfare with the Avenue of the Dead, which is the big road that they were taught that is on the circuit board. And
the circuits. This is the circuit, really, if you think about it.
Yeah, but what actually caused it to fall around the year 600 is still still unknown. There's a lot of theories ranging from an internal uprising to an external invasion, mostly because we don't know a whole lot because of stuff like how only 3% of it has actually been explored, because this is semi Tristan making you sad, but archaeologists are having a lot of trouble raising money to excavate this site. And furthermore, we don't listen, there's just not a lot of attention being thrown to it because it's not Aztec, it's not Mayan, it doesn't have that sort of gravitas. And because there's no, of what we've excavated, there's no signs of a cult of personality, which is sort of archaeology speak for there's no depictions of kings or leaders or generals or anything like that. So we don't really know much about how their society functioned or who was in charge or anything.
Mm-hmm.
What I've learned today is that Tristan is much harder working than the conspiracy theorists, because clearly if you wanted to bring aliens into this story in some way, the fact that we don't know why Teotihuacán was destroyed or vanished or was abandoned seems like that's where I would start, because then you can be like, it's because it was aliens, and we have to say, maybe it was.
You are exactly right. I love this episode because it touches on so many of the recurring themes of this show, from thing looks like a thing, and now we've got alien in the gaps. That's another one that happens. Alien of the gaps, where it's just when there's a gap in knowledge, you can just fill it with aliens, and that's a new theory.
The best Teotihuacan theory that is honestly better than the computer one is the Graham-Cock theory, which is that these people were just so they had opened their third eye so much by doing hallucinogens that they gained psychic powers, and that's how they were able to build the pyramids.
Oh hell yes! God, if you'd had me on to discuss that, I would have been like, yes, absolutely. No, I'm not here to debunk it. I'm here to fight you both. Yeah.
Great stuff. And so the idea is that that is the best part. How we know about all this stuff shows all sorts of cool tools that we have used in archaeology. We've studied it using ground penetrating radar, LiDAR mapping, which is where you use lasers to determine what's underground and what has been used. The craziest one I found is that they use fractal analysis, which is a form of mathematics. Fractals are the kind of study that you find to study things like patterns that have similarity at different scales. And they used measuring these things and using fractal math to try and determine what they think they call the Teotihuacan measurement unit, to figure out what their measurement system was based on looking at the size of things, so that they can kind of mathematically determine what regular intervals are being used here to figure out stuff. And I'm well, that is the coolest shit imaginable. Why is that one thing?
Well, it was probably easy to do all those mathematic equations, since it is the whole city is a computer, as we discussed.
That's true. They could just do the math there.
Yeah.
I'm imagining, do you two know about the politics around when there are space telescopes put into orbit? I found out about this from talking to an astrologer, but when you have essentially when you put up a new space telescope, the politics of people discussing where to point it is off the chain.
Really?
Because it's quite a complicated process to move what it's pointing at and get all the data. So when you know a space telescope is even being built, already astrologists are like, I'm first, okay, I'm second, yeah, but our university is third. I'm just thinking, imagine if your city was a computer. Imagine the discussions of who wants to calculate. I think
in olden days, they used to fight over computer time too, for that kind of thing. Punch card days.
Almost certainly that's why the city disappeared. We solved it. They had a big fight on. Someone wanted to just generate city-sized porn. Someone else wanted to calculate, debt figures, debt to EBITDA.
Someone discovered a way to make a new currency that used the computing power of the city.
Yes,
there
we go.
Use it. But unfortunately, it used up so much of their energy that it wiped out. It got rid of that's why the ley lines don't work anymore. We sucked up all of the power of the earth, making a fake money that nobody knows about anymore. It's locked it's locked in Teotihuacan, but we don't know the password, so we can't actually get it.
You said how much of the city did you say is unexplored today by archaeologists?
97%.
Hey, we got to get looking at that 97% to unlock the ancient
hack in
Bitcoin.
Yeah. And to kind of also just be like, hey, this is we kind of finish off with what's called the part where Tristan makes you sad, because we show that this has a dark and more ulterior thing that it is a larger part of, and we have a stinger for that too.
I was gonna say, and you're gonna like it because I get to hit a button again to make a noise.
Love it.
So this is the part where Tristan makes you sad.
Oh Oh, the low end rumble at the end there. That was nice.
Good touch. It's good touch. This is another part of a larger thing of taking a larger phenomenon in ancient astronaut circles that is basically trying to take a site that has some kind of mysterious to it, some type of mystery about it, but was notably built by non-white people, and basically either try to exoticize it by trying to make claims that it has things that it doesn't have, or specifically trying to take away the brilliance of the actual brilliance that we know about what was there in order to push like a science fiction agenda and to push aliens, because it relies on a sort of colonialist mentality that these civilizations were definitely not intelligent enough to do their own impressive things, so we need to add fake stuff and have that fake stuff be the source of alien intervention, and not the fact that they are just smart people who invented cool things like interesting city layouts and massive pyramids and constructions and all that kind of stuff.
Yes, nobody is saying that the Parthenon used to be an ancient. That's something.
Yeah, exactly.
They sometimes will throw the Stonehenge under the bus to try and claim they're not racist, but then we found out that they don't draw that much attention to Stonehenge because it
barely. We had to cover it on our show like way ahead of when they actually covered it on Ancient Aliens, because we were just like, we got to talk about it at some point. Like they don't even talk about it for a while.
And I think it's also important to talk about the current status of the descendants of the people of Teotihuacán, because one of the things that we in the West don't really draw a lot of attention to is that Mexico is also a settler colonial state. People in Mexico, like native speakers of Zapoteco, which is one of the languages that has its ancestry in, or has its lineage in Teotihuacán, live under significant discrimination. About 6,500 indigenous people are behind bars, many of them facing trials without inadequate interpretation or understanding the proceedings, because all the legal stuff is done in Spanish. And if they don't speak the language, that's an issue. Indigenous Mexicans experience discrimination and violence both in Mexico and in the United States, because, half of the landmass of the United States used to be Mexican. And just like in the United States during the COVID-19 pandemic, there was the indigenous people were hit especially hard because of inadequate health measures. There's labor market discrimination, but also Teotihuacan's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and it is, because of like its lack of attention and care, has been a site of illegal development. There is a ecotourism park that was built near the ruins of Teotihuacan, which was done again illegally and against the sort of ways to protect the site and give it its stuff. Yeah. And today, like indigenous people across the settler colonial world, but Mexico included, have poor access to water. They have language barriers. They have the cultural eradication of their language and culture and history, and racial discrimination, dispossession. And even because of lax environmental regulations, very often they are prey to like illegal developers, because they will try to protect the environment just like they do in North Dakota or here in Canada. But that they not only face violence from the government in terms of like building oil pipelines through their land or something like that, but they also have to face cartels. Mexico has a big issue of big and powerful organized crime syndicates that do things like illegal development in regions, and oftentimes indigenous people are their victims. So hopefully that's a great thing to finish you off on a good mood there, Quinns.
I mean, it kind of makes me, I don't want to say cheerier, but like when you're just staring down the barrel of the conspiracy theory, it's infuriating. But then you kind of did return me to real life and how the ancient aliens people are, I don't want to ask about, I was going to say like there's not many of them, but I don't want to ask about how many.
Well, millions of people around the world believe.
That's what they say. What's the actual, no, I refuse. What's the actual viewing figure?
Enough people that it is in the teens of seasons.
It's almost at season 20. Yeah.
So
it's like one guy at the History Channel who's responsible for this.
Yes.
But the other thing too is that it's well established that like this show is very popular with conservatives. It has there's a lot of overlap between these theories and like sort of far right conspiracy theories. Tucker Carlson made a big UFO documentary that like there's a very specific type of person who is really, really into this, and it's the kind of people who don't necessarily want to give Native Americans the like credit for building things like Teotihuacan that they should, and so instead they'll default to computer, or at least they're going to be more receptive to that idea.
Yeah, and again, even if it is, this city is a computer, it's because of aliens, you know?
Yeah, it's not even that they couldn't be like, hey, these people built a computer by themselves.
Yeah.
It's got to be.
It's gotta be aliens.
Thanks very much for having me and spiking my blood pressure sporadically for an hour.
That's what we do. That's the guarantee. That's the podcast guarantee.
I did appreciate learning. That was a lot of fun. So thank you both very, very much. And thank you for putting in the Lord's work, debunking apparently everything by the sounds of things.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on again. Plugs. Tell everybody where to find Quinn's.
Where can people find you on the internet?
People can find me on a little old site called YouTube. If you're interested in, like, I don't know, just about anything related to games or play, me and my team make documentaries on a channel called People Make Games. Go to that site, click around until you find something you're interested in. Or if you're interested in tabletop role-playing games, telling stories with your friends in the world of imagination, a bit like conspiracy theorists live in all the time, but in a healthier way, you can check out my YouTube channel, Quinn's Quest.
Yeah, it's really, really good. Yeah. There's only 2 videos out as of recording, and they're both really, really good. You did like a deep look into Lancer, which I was always curious but intimidated by, and you did
Two sensible reactions.
Yeah, and try to remember what the first one was.
The Wild Sea, a game that
yeah.
imagines, like, I don't know, it's fantasy, but it all feels fresh. You and the other players have your very own ship, and you sail across the treetops of an endless giant mean forest. Very thought-provoking, lovely game for fans of Supergiant games like Bastion or fail better games like
Supergiant.
And unlike a lot of people who do TTRPG reviews, you actually play the game, and you typically get the developer on the horn to talk about it too, which is like high quality.
Talking to the developer is easy. Playing the games fully for a campaign before I review them is a huge rod for my own back that I'm almost certainly going to regret at some point, but not yet.
Yeah, that's the fantasy of Quinn's Quest, that we are vicariously living through the fact that you have a group that's willing to play other systems.
Multiple groups now.
Oh,
I feel so spoiled.
Quinn's literally had to run because he had to go make more content because he's a content machine.
But that's okay.
Yeah, because this is just the end material. But yeah, so first thing is first that we do need to have like a little bit of a talk with you guys, the audience, the listeners, because we're doing a little bit of a shakeup in the way that we structure the show. Specifically because my life structure is changing a little bit with diversifying my income sources, and also just to make things easier on Scott, because he's been on quite the hustle grind set for the last few months to kind of keep having to edit one.
I have to make a video. At some point this year, I have to make a video for my YouTube channel.
Yeah,
so I can make money.
Yeah, so here's the way that we're going to do it, is that we're going to break the show and go more, or break the show's not ending, first of all, because we really, really love the show and we enjoy it.
No, we love it. We want to do it for as long as possible.
Yeah.
I think we've been clear that we don't like have a Patreon or anything. We just have people who support us by signing up on Nebula, and that's really it. So that's the only way the show makes even a trickle of money. And so yeah, we want to keep doing this show. We just need it to make sense for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're 100 episodes in. That is when a lot of podcasts or a lot of radio shows go into syndication. So we're hopefully going to still keep the feed going with, episodes from the back catalog that you might have missed. But furthermore, we're going to try and use this as a way to make the show even better. So we're going to do seasons, which a lot of podcasts do, where we will probably 10 to 12 episodes that'll come out every week once the thing is done. And we can do it all at the time. We can book guests for every episode. We can make everything thematically fit together and that kind of stuff. So that's the sort of bit that we're going to go into. And this episode is a bit of a season finale in a way. We had a 121 episode first season, and then
yeah. Just like in anime, we had 120 episodes in our first season.
Yeah, and so after this, I'm going to go away, and we're going to do a 12 episode batch, and then it'll all come out when it's all ready to go.
Yes, and a big part of the reason we're doing this also is because I work better when I have a batch of stuff to work on rather than a week to week. We've been recording week to week and editing week to week. And that it adds structure to my week, but it also, I feel like, disrupts some momentum that I have with other projects. Like I said, my YouTube videos and stuff, which is the main way I make money. It is a thing that I need to have momentum for. Like, you and I both have ADHD. We know how hard it is to sort of, when you're in a big focus mode on something, it's hard to, if you snap out of it, it's hard to get back into it. So we're hoping that we can like batch record a bunch, batch edit a bunch, and then continue to push them out, week by week. And if there is a break in between those seasons, we hope to fill it with the back catalog of stuff. Hopefully you won't really see that much of a disruption on your feed. I think other than the normal stuff of like me being so sucked into working on a video that I forget to release podcasts. But yeah, I don't know. We're trying to make it make sense in a way that we can continue doing this for as long as possible.
Yeah, because it's a lot of fun, and it means a lot to a lot of people, and I want to make sure that we keep being there for folks. So I'm going to, after this, I'm going to squirrel away into a hole and work on 12 episodes. I imagine every season we'll have the corrections, and we'll have other things. And also if an emergency podcast topic comes up, then we will, we'll definitely emergency get that in the feed for you. But in the meantime, the place where you can kind of keep up with the seasons and all that and this show is if you go to *ProbsNotAliens on Twitter and Bluesky.
Give us your thoughts about doing seasons, doing reissuing episodes from the back catalog. If you're a new listener.
we need some fan favorites so we know what to show the new people that
give us
might
some
have missed.
Fan favorites, maybe some hidden gems. Stuff that we don't talk about that you're like, I can't believe you guys don't talk about this episode. It was one of my favorites. Let us know that. It also just helps to know if you are excited about the show. We like doing it. We like hearing that people like doing it. Tristan, where can people find more of your stuff on the internet when you're not doing this?
Oh boy. You can go to Step Back, where I talk about the past and why it's important for understanding the present. I'm going to need to open that up a little bit more because I think I've got a bit of in the next few months, my online presence is going to diversify quite a lot, I think. So it'll be really interesting.
That's true. Yeah.
Now, Scott, if I wanted to figure out why Peter Quill's called Star-Lord, where would I want to go for that? Oh my
gosh, my first viral video. That's the video that launched my YouTube channel and made it so I could do this full time. You can follow my channel at NerdSync, NERDSYNC. By the time you're listening to this, I do have a video out, and it's about when I very recently became a world record speedrunner, video game speedrunner. So I'm as soon as the mods approve my time, it's been like 2 weeks. Mods, approve my time, please. I swear I didn't cheat. It would be weird if I did.
It's a weird flex to cheat at this specific
People
game.
Speed at cheat runs. What? People speed at cheat runs? What did I just say? People cheat at speed runs, but this is a speed run that is so quick and easy to do, it would be weird to cheat at. So I didn't. And you can watch my video about that over on my channel, NerdSync, NERDSYNC. Go check it out. You can also follow this show at nebula.tv/probablynotaliens. Like we said, that's really the main way we have support. We get support for this show. It's not a lot, but it does help. And it also shows the people at Nebula that you're interested in this show. And then maybe they could do more stuff with us. I don't know. You can also leave reviews of the show on Apple Podcasts. That also helps let people know that
or Spotify or anywhere you can review.
Or Spotify. You can leave feedback. That always helps. You can tell your friends about the show, all of that good stuff. And a very simple place to send your friends is probsnotaliens.com. It's got links to everywhere you can listen to this show and a bunch of other stuff over there. But that is it. Thank you so much for listening to this extra long outro. We really appreciate you. And until next time, my name is Scott Nicewander.
I'm Tristan Johnson, and the truth is out there. Beep, beep, probably.
Oh no, he's a computer now.
I'm a computer because I'm vaguely computer shaped.
I've always said that about you.